What I found most interesting about the final episode of True Detective Season 4, aka Night Country's finale, are two quotes that may have huge future implications in the franchise and the whole True Detective universe. The first one is Raymond Clark, the prime suspect in Annie Kay's murder, saying that time is a flat circle. It has been lifted from the first season. Matthew McConaughey's detective Rustin Cole says something very similar. In this season, it means that Annie Kay comes back from the dead to fix what's been unfixed, to bring back the balance between humanity and nature when someone tries to disrupt this balance. She delivers her justice and punishes those responsible. But was Raymond referring to Annie Kay's spirit? Or was he referring to Mother Nature or some other ancient force like Sedna, the ruler of the underworld from the Inuit mythology, who some believe is the force that Navaro is channeling to deliver justice? The next quote I found interesting was from Danvers. So our second main gal, Detective Liz Danvers, played by the one and only Jodie Foster, says that no one really leaves Ennis, which basically means that she has come to terms with some pretty out there stuff. After being a skeptic for far too long, she now believes that there is more to this world than meets the eye, especially in the eerie town of Ennis. At the end of the season finale, Danvers can be seen being interviewed by two other cops over the events of the recent past. The deaths of Salal scientists were blamed on slab avalanche. Hank Pryor was missing, and so was Evangeline Navaro, whose native name is also revealed in the episode. However, Danvers suggests that Evangeline Navaro, brought to life by Kaylee Reese, isn't going anywhere, no matter the odds. And it's not just about the people, it's about the lingering shadows of past institutions and the very essence of Ennis that's going to stick around, ghostly vibes and all. Interestingly, the last episode not only delivers on the promises but also fits snugly into the True Detective world, staying true to its gritty and mystifying roots. I mean, it feels like a part of the larger True Detective universe and may have some role to play in future installments. The reason I believe this would happen is because showrunner Isa Lopez has unfortunately left many loose ends that need to be tied up. We need closures for several story arcs and subplots. Keeping in mind these things, let's briefly explore whatever happened in the past 5 episodes before we dive into the season finale. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
She's waiting for you.
Season recap. So, True Detective Night Country takes us to Ennis, a made-up town in northern Alaska that's about to experience its annual long, dark winter without sunlight. We meet Liz Danvers, who's on the scene to investigate the disappearance of 8 scientists from the Salal research station. But 7 of these men are found frozen solid out on the tundra, leaving us with a mystery that continues throughout the season. Danvers' old partner, Evangeline Navaro, muscles her way into the investigation, convinced there's a link to the cold case of Annie Kotok, an indigenous woman killed 6 years back because of 32 star-shaped wounds. Soon they find out Annie was dating Raymond Clark, the only scientist presumably alive, but still MIA. Over 5 episodes, Danvers and Navaro mind their investigative steps through local politics, clash with a mining company called Silver Sky that's got the locals worried about their water, and bump into some seriously spooky stuff that makes them wonder about the thin line between the living and the dead. Things get personal when Navaro's sister Julia, who's been struggling with her mental health, ends up dead. Just when they are getting somewhere, Silver Sky pulls some strings and the state police call off the investigation, blaming the weather for the scientists' deaths. But it doesn't end there. Silver Sky's boss, Kate McKittrick, orders Danvers cop Hank Pryor to silence Otis Hayes, their last lead. Hank does the deed, but then gets taken out by his own son Peter, another officer in NSPD. With time running out, Peter steps up to cover their tracks, allowing Danvers and Navaro to race off to the caves where Annie Kay was last seen, at least on video. Interestingly, it was Hayes who had tipped them about the place. And now, let's see how the story comes a full circle, even if the circle is a flat one. Night Country, Episode 6. Liz and Evangeline reach the caves under Ennis, which are a sight to behold with their icy blue rock walls that sparkle like candy. But there's definitely something off about this place, and the place reeks of spook. Needless to say, things quickly take a nosedive from creepy to downright dangerous. In classic thriller fashion, they fall through the ice into an even chillier spot below. And who do they find? Raymond Clark, the guy they've been chasing all along. Now, I should give due respect to the fan theorists who had been peddling stories that hit the mark. A bullseye at that. There's a secret lab where it looks like Annie met her grim fate, complete with a star-shaped equipment that may have served as the weapon that caused Annie's death. They initially feel that they both are trapped, but ultimately find an escape route, a ladder heading straight back to Salal Station, which is as spooky and deserted as ever. The soundtrack of Twist and Shout is playing to no one. Facing off with Clark turns into a proper fight as he tries to dodge their questions by locking Danvers out and knocking Navaro out cold. They do catch him eventually, tying him down for a heart-to-heart, but with a storm brewing outside, no Wi-Fi and no radio, they are pretty much cut off from the world. Sure, they might pry some truths out of Clark, but the real cliffhanger is whether they'll get to share those truths with anyone else, or if they are stuck in this isolated spot for good. So when Clark finally decides to reveal the truth, the story takes several unexpected turns. It turns out Annie stumbled upon some serious dirt. Clark and his research crew at Salal were on a mission to mine the DNA of this ancient microbe buried in the permafrost, something that could be a game changer for medicine, possibly curing diseases and saving humanity. But they needed the permafrost softened up to get to the goods, which meant having Silver Sky dump more pollutants into the water. Yeah, not so heroic after all, especially considering the health nightmares it caused for the people of Ennis. Annie wasn't going to let this continue and tried to shut down Salal's secret lab for good. But then Anders Lund and his squad caught her in the act and decided she had to go for good. As far as Clark's involvement is concerned, let's just say the visuals don't match his version of the story. We see a tormented Clark ending Annie's life, which pretty much answers that question. Post-murder, Clark loses it. He starts seeing Annie everywhere, hearing her voice. He's convinced she's coming back for revenge. One night, totally spooked, he hides in the tunnels, holding the hatch shut for an entire week while something or someone attacks the men above. Was it Annie's ghost on a vengeful spree or something else? We'll soon find out. Clark's breakdown paints a chilling picture of guilt, ghosts, and the consequences of playing God with nature. Clark decides to end things on his own terms and walks into the icy embrace of the Alaskan wilderness, never to return. It's a grim kind of justice that echoes the fate of his fellow researchers. Meanwhile, Danvers and Navaro are left in the cold, literally grappling with the darkness from both outside and within. The tension between them spikes when Navaro mentions Danvers' late son, leading to a fierce outburst from Liz. She makes it crystal clear that she's run out of mercy, especially when it comes to her personal loss. But the ice between them starts to thaw when Navaro, haunted by her own demons, ventures into the storm, and Danvers, despite her harsh words, can't help but follow, worried. To make it all worse, Danvers falls through the ice, and Navaro is the one who pulls her back from the brink. Navaro did go out to the ice to disappear, but soon comes back to her senses and to Danvers. Together, they try to get some warmth by the fire while sharing their grief and healing. Turns out, Ennis has a bit of mercy left after all, offering a glimmer of warmth in the coldest of places. Back at Danvers' place, Pete cleaning up a crime scene, that of his father's murder by his own hands. He was scrubbing blood, prying teeth out of walls, and packing up the remains of his dad and Otis Hayes. All this just in time for Leah, Danvers' daughter, to drop by, clueless. Why was she there? Well, she was looking to patch things up with her mum. Peter plays it cool and drives Leah back to his place, pretending he's just being a good guy, not wanting Kyla and Darwin to be alone on New Year's. Somehow, amidst the chaos, he smooths things over with his wife, which did feel like a sigh of relief. Personally, I was hating the way this couple was and how they had drifted apart because of Pete's work and his responsibilities. Then he's off to Rose Aguinaldo's place, bodies in tow, because apparently that's how they roll. Rose was an amazingly unflappable being and tells Pete it's gonna be one of those nights with a level of calm we all wish we had. It also means that she had done this kind of work before. You know, the whole getting rid of adult-sized evidence. They drop the bodies into the depths as the northern lights blaze above, and by now the raging blizzard had calmed down as if it were a foreboding for imminent closures. As the night lights up with the aurora borealis, it became clear that a new chapter was beginning, with or without the dark baggage of the past. New Year's Day comes around, and as the storm at Salal finally dies down, Liz catches a clue from Clark's tale about hunkering down in the tunnels. With some quick thinking, they light up the hatch with chemicals and a UV light. The cops end up finding several handprints, but among these were a very telling one with a missing pinky, which pointed straight to Blair Hartman, the crab factory worker from episode 1's domestic dispute. For those who had their detective hats on and found Blair's cameo at the laundromat a bit odd, your instincts were spot on. When Liz and Eve show up at Blair's doorstep, they don't just find her. They also stumble upon B, Blair's colleague from Salal and the bucket-wielding hero from the premiere, along with a bunch of indigenous women. B then goes on to tell the truth to Liz and Evangeline. The women knew the scientists were behind Annie Kay's death, but going to the authorities was not the best of options because they did not believe in the capabilities of cops to deliver justice. Additionally, NSPD had crooked cops like Hank. They were tired of the same old outcomes, so they decided to craft their own narrative, one with a different, more satisfying conclusion. B, Blair, and the indigenous women serve up their own brand of justice for what happened to Annie and the mess Salal caused in their community. They led the scientists onto the ice, stripping down to nothing, and made them take their last walk, albeit a deadly one. They left the scientists' clothes folded neatly on the ice, a chance of survival they never took or never got to take because the ice consumed them. As for the mysterious she who might have taken the scientists, could be the spirits of the ancestors, Mother Nature, or maybe just the cold, dark void. B keeps it vague, but it's clear there's a deeper force at play here. Danvers and Navaro get the message loud and clear. They see the raw deal these women got and decide to let the story of Retribution slide, just like they sidestepped the rules during the Wheeler case. They opt to back Connolly's made-up avalanche story instead. They've cracked the case wide open but chose freedom over further confrontation. A few months later, it is May the 12th, with the sun finally breaking through. Danvers faces questions about Hank Pryor's disappearance and plays it with a not-so-specific or confident "we'll find him unless we don't." The story's ending changes depending on who's telling it. This time around, the mine shuts down thanks to Clark's confession, which Navaro managed to extract before he committed suicide. Danvers and Lear patch things up, and Pryor makes his way back home. Navaro, having faced her demons, steps away from the badge and leaves behind nothing but a SpongeBob toothbrush, a sign she's moved on but isn't really gone. After all, in Ennis, no one truly leaves. The ending explained. Is Navaro dead or alive? In the final moments of True Detective Night Country, Navaro's fate becomes somewhat complicated and vague. The police get Danvers on record saying Navaro's left town, but then we see shots of Navaro heading into the wild unknown. Is she just out for a walk, or has she become one with the icy wilderness? Furthermore, sightings of her around Ennis keeps everyone guessing. Navaro has always had a foot in the supernatural, so when we see her maybe chilling with Danvers on her balcony, it's anyone's guess if she's actually there or just a lingering spirit. When asked about the same, Issa Lopez plays it coy and invited viewers to draw their own conclusions about Navaro's fate based on the breadcrumbs left throughout the series. She has left the ending open to interpretation, suggesting that the true end of the story is what you make of it. So what do you think happened to Navaro? Marvelous verdict. Let's be real, the ending was a mixed bag. The mystery of who killed Annie Kotok wrapped up in a way that left us wanting more. And the whole deal with the Salal men, it's got its moments that feels kind of right, but doesn't quite hit home as hard as they should. Good mystery stories usually throw us bones and breadcrumbs to pick up so that we can piece things together while the show takes its own course. But here, it felt like the showrunner Issa Lopez decided to pull a fast one on us with some last-minute surprises. True Detective Night Country, in a nutshell, is all about the eerie, the unexpected, and the remnants of the past that stick around, whether we are talking spooky apparitions or real-world consequences. It's a bit of a roller coaster that leaves you hanging at the end, but hey, that's the ride we've signed up for. Let's be honest, leading up to this finale, there were moments when we were scratching our heads, wondering if Issa Lopez could tie up all those loose ends and wild theories like our girl Navaro channeling the Sedna, the ruler of the underworld from the Inuit mythology. But I believe Ms. Lopez pulled it off. So yeah, doubts aside, Lopez nailed it, giving us a finale that's both a tip of the hat to her unique vision and a solid tribute to the True Detective legacy. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.